Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Let's Talk Footy. And for the first time ever, featuring Elite Athlete Mindset. The Let's Talk Footy podcast was created a few years ago, and the purpose of it was to just talk about football, talk about informative educational content, and just as a hobby, talk to other people that might, enjoy the beautiful game. So that's how it was started, and throughout the years, I've done many different versions of it. I've done episodes with guests. I've done a lot of venting about Real Madrid. I've done educational content. We've brought in guests, etc. And it's always been really important for me to keep it flexible and to make sure that there's not a lot of restrictions around it because I'm not really good at this and I want to be able to try things and see what really works, what doesn't work, and what is maybe beneficial to the audience and to the people that watch it or listen to it. And then Elite Athlete Mindset, EAM, was created by myself, and the purpose of it was to support, coach, and mentor players and athletes that are interested in continuing to develop and getting better, in addition to their team sessions and trainings and development. The reason that we've decided to bring these two together and for the collaboration between the Soft Footy podcast and Elite Athlete Mindset is for us to hopefully be able to talk to guests, talk to leaders, experts, coaches, athletes, or even parents that might bring some value to us, that might help us learn about the game, soccer, football here in Canada, learn about player development, coach development, but also bring value to our, again, audience and our players, athletes, or our listeners. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. Today's guest is going to be Elise Bell. Elise has recently joined EAM as the technical assistant and brand ambassador, but Elise has also played in different levels here in Ontario, in Toronto, and she's gone through the player pathway and she is currently playing in North Toronto's League1 as well as for Guelph University. So we're very excited to have Elise at EAM, to be part of EAM, but I'm also very excited to speak with Elise today in today's podcast featuring EAM for the first time. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. Let's get to it.
Hi, Elise. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Good to see you. Thanks for making the time to be on the podcast for the first time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Thank you. I'm excited as well. I really am. Before we get into some nice conversation, why don't you just give us a brief background about yourself so that the audience, gets to know you a little bit, and then we'll go from there. How does that sound?
Sounds good. Okay, so I grew up in Toronto. I started playing at High Park. I played at a couple of other clubs, and then I ended up at North Toronto, where I decided to commit to play soccer at the University of Guelph. Um, I just finished my second year there, and I'm studying biomedical science and business. And this summer I play League1 at North Toronto, and I'm now the technical assistant and brand ambassador at Elite Athlete Mindset.
Which is really exciting for me and for EAM for sure. Um, okay, well, thanks for sharing that. I have a question. When did you start playing soccer? At what age specifically?
I think I was around 3. I was pretty little. My parents put me in soccer, so
Did you like join a Timbits program?
yeah, I played
Yeah,
at High Park in Timmins.
nice, nice. That's so exciting. Okay, good. And you mentioned now you've joined EAM. What attracted you to EAM? Why did you decide that you wanna be a part of a small organization that's trying to grow, but also is trying to help athletes in different ways?
Yeah, I mean, this summer I knew I really wanted to get some more hands-on experience and the business aspect of things. And so when the opportunity arose to blend business with my love for soccer and mentoring players, I was really excited and I wanted to hop on the opportunity as soon as I could. I really was drawn to EAM's commitment of developing players not just technically, but mentally and physically as well. And I think that focus on mentorship and mindset and building well-rounded athletes just really resonated with me because I know I would have benefited from a lot of one-on-one technical and film sessions when I was younger. So being able to contribute to EAM was huge for me.
So even though you play League 1 right now and you play at the University of Guelph, which is pretty good, these are, this is something a lot of the athletes and soccer players want to do. They want to get a scholarship, they want to play for the university, etc. You think if you had that type of maybe coaching and mentorship where you had a lot of one-on-one stuff, it would have helped you even more? Do you actually believe that?
Totally. I know, like, personally, I worked a lot on my own time. I just would go to the field and play by myself. I'd get touches as much as I could. And I think having a coach there with me to help me with my technique, because I was never really a technical player, would have helped me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really start watching film until I had to start making highlight videos for university. And starting to watch back and look back at how I kind of did things, I don't really think I was properly analyzing my film, and now I know it's such a great resource. So I think having that integrated into my development as a player would have been really helpful.
Yeah, I agree. I have a lot of emphasis on video analysis and tactical awareness. And nowadays, literally, like almost every single game is recorded. When we used to play, like we talk about this all the time with coaches, like nobody recorded anything. There wasn't even photos. I don't know how it was when you were growing up, probably a little bit more. But nowadays, every game is recorded, and I know for a fact very few players watch the games, very few players actually study, and I think you can see how important it is, especially now like at university level. Do you guys have film sessions and analysis sessions?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I do it in
yeah.
the summer as well. So I think, yeah, I had the access to the film when I was younger, but I didn't take advantage of it as I should have. And looking now at how much I look at my games and I'm able to learn from them, if I had known that when I was younger, I think it really would have helped with my development. So,
Do you guys do these film sessions like with a specific coach, or is it with your head coach at the university level, or is it one on
um,
one? Is it for the whole team? How does it work? Tell us a little bit.
it depends. A lot of the time, my head coach Shane will send out clips ahead of games so we can kind of get a feel for how our opposition team is going to play and how we're going to counterattack that. And a lot of the time at training, we'll use that film and we'll kind of build out from the back, for example, based on how they're going to press us.
Hmm.
Also, I watch all my games back and I'll clip things and send them to my coach, and we'll meet up one on one so I can go over um, and get his opinion on what I could have done better in certain moments, which has been massive for me in developing as a player.
So you also have to be proactive yourself and take things to your coaches and try to get that additional help.
Totally. I think like I also didn't know that asking for feedback was a thing when I was younger, and I wish I had because I do it all the time now, and I think that's been a huge factor to um, how much I've improved in the past couple of years. So yeah, definitely being proactive is really important if you want to become a better player.
So nobody told you when you were playing that you should ask for feedback? Like, what do you mean you didn't know? Like, I'm sure you were told, go ask your coach if something doesn't make sense or you don't know something, no?
Yeah, totally in training sessions, I think that was really emphasized to ask a lot of questions, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really know until I came to North Toronto that players would go like to their coaches after and ask for feedback, looking back at how they played during a game and what they could have done better. And I didn't really see it until I was surrounded by players who were really, really committed to being the best versions of themselves. So yeah, more
Yeah.
on like the after games, watching film back side of things.
Yeah. It's really important. A lot of times players come to coaches and say, why am I not getting enough playing time? Like, what do I have to do? This, or even parents. And there's so much they can do to be proactive, to reflect on their performance, to review their games, and then go with specific questions to their coaches, because that's the coach's job. Like if I'm coaching a team and a player comes to me and says, here, I did this, it didn't work, or what do you think? Do you think I need to keep doing this? Then my job as the coach is to help that player and answer that question. I'm never going to say no as a coach. So if coaches don't provide enough feedback to players, there's also things that players can do to help themselves to learn as much as possible, to perform better, to learn more, etc. So I'm glad you bring that up. Let's go a little bit like into more details about your growing up playing soccer. So you mentioned you started at Toronto High Park at Timbits. You played there, I'm assuming, competitively. At what age and at what level did you play? And then when did you make a switch? Did you go straight to North Toronto? Did you go to some other clubs in between? Just give us a little bit more details.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I kept playing at High Park until I was in my first year of OPDL. I did there, and then unfortunately our team folded, so I had to find a new club to play at if I wanted to keep playing OPDL. And I moved to SC Toronto for a year. Our team folded there as well during COVID,
Mm.
and so I had to find another team. So I went to North Toronto, and originally I was just training with the team. I came in at a pretty hard time. It was during the pandemic, just after lockdown had kind of opened things up a bit more so people could start training again, but it was hard. I was the only new player coming into the team and everyone was socially distanced, so it was pretty difficult to make friends at the time.
I
But yeah, so I started training with them, and after a few weeks of training, I had a conversation with my head coach at the time, which was Billy Wilson. And he had told me that he wasn't going to offer me a spot on the team, but I could keep training with them. And he was really honest with me during that conversation. And I think that was the first time that a coach had been so brutally honest with me. And he told me that if I did play for the team at this point, like I wasn't probably going to get many minutes, because there was another player in my position that like she was more talented than me and she had been playing there for a long time. So I'm glad he was honest with me. And I don't think I really fully understood the conversation at the time. So
It must
I
have been a
said,
difficult conversation.
yeah, it was pretty difficult. And I think at the time I didn't really have that many other good options to play at. So I was like, okay, I'll just keep training with the team for now and we'll see where it goes. And then I had my U17 OPDL season there, and I think that was probably one of the hardest years for me in soccer. I had a really bad season. I every single time I came onto the field, I would turn over the ball and they would score a goal. And my mindset going into every game was I'm going to try and make less than 3 mistakes or less than 4 mistakes, which is a terrible approach to going to games. My confidence was like at an all-time low. I don't think I was close with that many players on the team as well because I was so used to growing up with all of my teammates, and all the same teammates had come with me from High Park to SC Toronto. So I was with a whole new group of girls, which was difficult at the beginning. And so that season was really hard for me, and I wanted to stop playing. I didn't really want to play anymore. Soccer wasn't that fun for me.
This was U17.
Yeah, this was U17. So I was in just summer of grade 10. And then after that season had finished, I was like, okay, well, I'll keep playing here and see where it goes. My dad's always been a big supporter of me in my soccer journey, so he always motivated me and encouraged me to keep playing because he knew that I really did love playing. And then in after our U17 OPDL season, my age group at North Toronto got split into either League1 Reserve B, League1 Reserve A, or League1 Premier. At the time, there was no championship or like under 20 teams at League1. So I was put on the League1 Reserve B team. And honestly, that was the best possible thing that could have happened to me.
Why?
So I was starting, coming off the bench. I was not starting games. I was not playing very much. And I had a different head coach, Chris Vickers, and he gave me all of my confidence back. So I was coming into a game and one of our players got injured. And so I had to take the opportunity and really just show him that I was a great player. At the time, I was practicing so much on my own time because I wanted to get better. I just didn't want to be the worst player on the team. Like that is not fun at all. And it wasn't fun coming into practice and not believing in yourself. So I came into that game, I played really well, and unfortunately our player was still injured, so I got to keep starting games, and I got so many minutes under my belt, and I think that was huge for my development. And I know if I had been playing in a different team or a different like tier in the teams, I wouldn't have been getting that many minutes. And from there, I just
So even though it was a little bit lower in terms of tiering, you think that helped you to get more minutes, and it helped you to then develop more because you were in a quote unquote better environment suited for you, and that helped you to gain your confidence back, but also helped you become better even though you were like 17, 18, or you're 17.
yeah, totally. And like I think a lot of people sometimes if they get put on a lower team, they look at it and they're like, I don't
Step
want to play
back.
anymore. I don't want to
Yeah.
like I just got pushed back to a lower team, but I think sometimes you have to see that that's the environment that you should be in. Your coaches want to do the best thing for you. And so from there, because I was playing consistently well, I got called up to play for the League1 Reserve A team. And then from there, I was playing well and I got a call from Billy, and it was a couple of hours before the League1 Premier game, and he asked me to come play. And I remember I said no because I was so nervous. And my parents were away at the time. So my sister told me to call him back and tell him that I would come to the game because she was like, you can't say no to that. And I was like, I am so nervous. Like, I do not want to go play. And so I ended up going to the game, and I didn't think I was going to play, but one of our center backs got a yellow card in the game. So I came on at half, and I ended up getting my League1 Premier debut, which was huge. So yeah, playing at that like level was really important for me. And um, I think really getting minutes in and building up my confidence helped me become the player I am now.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, from there, the next year,
Pause before we get to the
okay,
next. So this is important because you said uh, at one point you had so Billy Wilson was the coach of the U17 team, OPDL at the time.
yes,
Yes. So for those people that don't know who Billy is, he used to be the technical director at North Toronto. He's now currently one of the co-founders of AFC Toronto. So he's pretty well known for those of you that don't know. So Billy at the time was the head coach of the U17 OPDL team, and he had a very honest conversation with you. And I've had to have some honest conversation with players myself in the past, and I've seen other coaches do it. And sometimes it comes across as, harsh, or players or even parents can get defensive and say, you don't see the value that my kid brings in, or etc. And I think you mentioned the importance of that honest conversation because I'm sure he didn't sugarcoat it, and he told you how it was. And that made you, even though it was difficult at the moment, it helped you to really look back and see what you needed to improve on, what the reality was, maybe take one step back, even though it's not back, it's just a different environment that's better for you, that's better suited for you. And then eventually, after some time, Billy himself called you. So shout out to Billy for calling you and giving you that opportunity. That's huge. That that must have felt good, no?
yeah,
Even
it
though you
was,
were nervous, you must have felt like, all that difficult times that you went through, it kind of paid off. Now you're where you want to be at least.
yeah, totally. I think like he always kind of told me that he saw a lot of potential. And I remember the first time he told me that, I like it kind of lit like a fire inside of me, and I was like, okay, like he sees something in me. And he was always pretty hard on me, and I think it was what made me like change a lot as a player. He was probably the coach that contributed to my development the most. Um, and yeah, so I'm very lucky that I had him as a coach, and I'm lucky that North Toronto has such a great framework in their program and that I was able to kind of like prove myself. And if I did prove myself and I worked hard, I saw results and I was able to play with the next team moving forward. And now going back, like I'm playing with the League1 Premier team, and I was able to play with them last year as well. And even in my grade 12 year, I was supposed to be on the reserve team, but I ended up playing with the premier team most of that summer because I proved myself and I was playing well with the players. So yeah, I think it's important and it was a great lesson for me. And I use it a lot still to see that hard work does pay off. And if you really put your mind to something, you can really do whatever you want to do. So
Yeah, and another important thing is at the time, I'm sure you, because you were still young, you compare yourselves, you compare yourself to other players, saying, "Oh, this player is here, I'm here. This player is playing at a higher level than me." But even though, you're at a young age, it's important to have the right support around you to help you understand that you don't need to compare yourself to other players. You just need to focus on yourself, focus on your own development. And you mentioned your dad, so we need to really emphasize that because it's important to have the right support system around you. And uh, tell us a little bit about that. How important was your dad's support in those difficult moments, especially to, be there for you, to give you the right advice, guidance, and to encourage you and inspire you to continue, working towards what it is that you want to achieve.
yeah, totally. I think he's always been huge for me. He coached me from a young age, so he knew that I loved playing. And he always like believed in me even when I wasn't playing my best games, but he knew the player that I could be. And yeah, having coaches like Billy was always super supportive as well, as much as he was hard on me. He saw the potential in me and he wanted me to get better. And I think once I realized that he wanted me to get better and that's why he would give me so much instruction and not because he wanted to critique me. I think a lot of players sometimes see their coaches critiquing them as a negative thing, and for me, I once I realized that it's a good thing, it means your coach wants you to get better and they really see potential in you. That was also massive. So yeah, having the support system around me, of course, my mom and my sister especially, she likes to bring it all up a lot that she's the reason I ended up playing that game. It was huge. So yeah, and my
She
teammates
gave you
were
that
great as
little
well.
push,
Yes.
Yeah, it's important. Nice, nice. Thanks for sharing all that. And then how was your transition into university? Tell us a little, how did that transition work? What were some of the important things in that pathway?
Yeah, I mean, going kind of back to like the development factor, I think I was a player that developed a lot later on than some other players technically, and so that was sometimes difficult because I think even now I can see players who see players around them that are committing to these schools in the States, and it's such a big deal, and they compare themselves and they're like, that's not me, that should be me. I don't understand why I'm not at that level, but um I ended up committing in grade 12, and my transition to university was a little bit different. I was playing, I had a great start that summer in the League1 Premier Division. Um, and a couple weeks after our season had started, um, my foot, so okay, I should go back in time. So we were
Okay.
playing a couple games against universities in the winter, and my foot started to hurt during these games, but I was told by the doctors that there was nothing wrong, so I could just keep playing, and then it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. One game during our League1 Premier um, time, I was stepped on by someone who actually ended up being one of my teammates at Guelph, and I went to the doctors because I was like, this is like, I'm in so much pain. But I've been told that there's nothing wrong with me, so I had to keep playing through it. And they ended up doing an X-ray, and I found out my foot was broken. So going into my first year of university, I was coming in with an injury, and that was pretty difficult. I thought I was ready to play because I got cleared, but turns out my foot was still broken. And then
So was this before you were committed or after?
this was before I was coming in.
Okay.
I got cleared. So the summer going in, just like 2 weeks before I was supposed to come into training camp, I got cleared to start playing again. And I
Yeah.
was super excited. I was like, okay, perfect. Timing matches up. I played the first 2 weeks of training camp. And then in my second game, I came on at halftime. And 2 minutes into the game, I got a concussion. And I found out a couple days later that my foot was still broken. So I ended up
Oh,
having to miss
wow.
my whole first year. And I was on an e-scooter, which was interesting.
Yeah,
So yeah,
been
it
on
was
one of
pretty
those.
difficult. Yeah.
So So your entire first year university, you were injured and out, concussion and broken foot.
Yeah, my first like month at university, it was hard for me to focus in school because of the concussion, and then it was hard because I wasn't able to do the thing that I love the most. And I was going around campus on a knee scooter, which didn't help as well. So yeah, I missed my whole season, and I ended up being able to come back in February. So what was supposed to be a 6 week long recovery ended up turning into 6 months, which is very long.
Wow, wow. And how was once your foot started healing? How did that play out? How was your comeback? How did you have to? Because first of all, mentally that must have been very difficult for you, like you mentioned, but also physically coming back from an injury, I'm sure it wasn't easy. Coming back from concussion wasn't easy. Being in first year university, brings its own challenges academically. So how did you have to? How strong did you need to be to come back from that?
Yeah, definitely super strong, but I'm lucky I had the support around me. My coach at school, Shane Campbell, he kept telling me this thing over and over, and it drove me crazy. But looking back, like, I can totally see why he said it. He kept telling me to find the good. And at the time, I was like, what is he talking about? This is like the worst situation possible. I can't play in my first year. I had so many goals for my first year. And all those goals were kind of just like swept away. So um, I tried. I was like, okay, I'll try and find the good. I think I'm kind of the type of person that when I get presented with a challenge, I try and do my best to think about how I could use this challenge to better myself in the future. So I was lifting every single day. I went into our strength and conditioning gym so I could work with my strength and conditioning instructors, which are fantastic. Those coaches, they really helped me during that process. And so I got a lot stronger, which looking back now, I'm happy I did that because I think that was one thing I really lacked coming into the OUA. Since players are so strong, that was really helpful building up my strength that I was lacking. And then I think also when I was coming back, I was given a lot more time to build up my technical abilities. And like I was saying before, I was never really a technical player. So being able to strengthen my weak foot, which is my left, because I had broken my right foot. So I always kind of found some way to get around my injury. I wasn't really supposed to be on my foot. So I would just go on my left foot instead, and I'd pass the ball with my teammates. And as little as it may seem, it actually ended up helping a lot. My left foot's a lot stronger than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think also, you know, as much as it was really difficult, I think it showed my teammates as well that I'm a player that like I work for what I get. Nothing really comes easily, and I think it was a good lesson for me as well. Um, that sometimes you get setbacks, but you can work hard to overcome them. And in my second year, I ended up being able to play quite a few minutes, and I was able to be nominated to the OUA first team All Star, and
Look at that.
um, yeah, and U Sports All Canadian second team. So that was huge. Again, like taught me that if you work really hard, like it pays off. And I think the last lesson I learned from that injury was that like how much I loved playing. I think sometimes you take it for granted. And my recovery was very different because I would go and get x-rays bi-weekly, and sometimes there was just no healing. And I remember I was like starting to give up. I was like, I don't know if my foot's ever going to heal. And like I had a conversation with a doctor, and I was like, well, what happens if my foot just doesn't heal? And he was like, well, you might not be able to play anymore. And that was like shocking. I was like, there is no way. Like I don't think I really realized how much I loved playing until I was injured. And so coming back was just, I remember like when my first practice back, I was so excited. And I think I really love playing more than I did coming into my first year now. Like, I just think it really showed me that every time I step on the field, I should be grateful that I have the ability to play, because there is people in my position and teammates that I've played with in the past who have had career-ending injuries, and not everyone gets the opportunity to keep playing. And at my age, especially, like I'm not in high school anymore. I'm playing at the university level, and not everyone gets the opportunity to do that. So, being grateful for that every time I step on the field or every time I'm at training has been massive as well for me.
Yeah. This is something I try to always get across to players and parents and families, which is if you want to play at a good level, whatever that is for you, that might be competitive for somebody because, that's just the level they're at the moment, or high performance or university, whatever it is. There's going to be challenges in that path. You're going to have injuries, maybe you're going to have difficult moments, you're going to have difficult conversations. There's going to be times you're not going to get as much minutes as you want. You're not going to start. Maybe you will go through 8 games in a row where you don't start, or you get 10, 15 minutes playing time. The point I'm trying to make is this is literally part of the development. It's part of the journey. It actually the way the mindset is very important. It depends on how you look at it, and if you look at it properly, it will actually benefit you in the long run. It will make you more resilient. It will make you look at the things you need to improve on, reflect, get help, be proactive, work on the things that you need to improve more to be able to get more minutes, start more games. And in the long run, it's going to help you. But if you look at it from a negative perspective and you say, they don't see the value in me, or I'm better than this, or I deserve to play more, etc., then you're pessimistic. You have this negative uh, perspective on it. You don't trust the coaches, you don't trust the process, and you're not going to train as much as you should be training, or you're not going to be as resilient as you should be. So, we talk about player development all the time. Everybody talks about it and how it's not linear. And it's important to remember challenges, injuries, not playing as much, or thinking you deserve to play more, and training extra or doing extra things on your own and being proactive. Those are all part of it. And if you're willing to do all that, then you will get somewhere. You will reach your potential. Whatever, again, that's different from player to player. So it's really important to have that mindset, and it's very clear that you had that mindset and the people around you support you with that mindset, whether it's your coaches, Billy, Coach Chris, your dad, your sister, your friends, and most importantly, obviously yourself. So I'm so happy that you were able to overcome all that. Honestly, I am, but I'm also happy that we're having this conversation because there's so many players that can hear this right now and it can help them and be beneficial for them. So thank you for sharing all this. Um, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is how did you end up at Guelph? So was that an academic decision, or did soccer play a role in that? How was that process of you looking for a soccer team with the injuries and stuff that you had, with the challenges you had? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So I knew I wanted to play in university. I just wasn't sure if I wanted to play in the States or if I wanted to stay in Canada. But at the time that I started reaching out to schools, which is in like grade 10, I really was not able to play in the States. I wasn't at that level. And again, because I developed so much later as a player, my options were a lot more limited as to where I could go. And so I was mostly reaching out to schools in Ontario. I didn't really visit that many, which I don't regret doing because I ended up at a school that I love. But I think that
Okay.
players should definitely look at your options, like go to as many schools as you can, and be persistent with reaching out. That's what I did. I had a lot of help from my coaches because North Toronto has a great college prep program, and I was able to showcase my skills against different universities. But I was
How did
always
they
in
help you?
touch.
How did they help you in that college prep program? What was some of the things that they supported you with?
Reaching out to coaches at the time, again, Chris was my coach, so he had a lot of connections to these schools and he knew the coaches, a lot of them personally, so he was able to reach out and tell them that he had a player that he thought fit their game model. He would help us write emails to coaches because I think that's how I reached out to all of the coaches I did reach out to. And then also making highlight videos was massive. He helped us with that, making sure they were good clips. So yeah, that was huge. And so I reached out in grade 10 to Shane, and I just filled out some form. At the start, most teams just give you a form to fill out. So I kind of was like in touch that way. And then in grade 11, I started being able to talk to these coaches a bit more because that's when most of them do the recruiting. And then in the summer of grade 11, I had a game against Guelph in Guelph. So Shane was the coach at the time at Guelph United, and I told him I was coming. My dad actually told me to tell him, and I was like, I don't even think I'm gonna play in this game. Like, I don't know. I ended up playing like 5 minutes, so I wasn't really able to do much. But I talked to him after the game, and then from there we stayed in touch. I was going to go on a visit to a different school in the OUA and Guelph in 1 week. So I went to Guelph first. I did not think I wanted to go to Guelph. Like Guelph was like last on my list, and I talk about that all the time because I think it's quite funny. Um, and so I went to Guelph. I was like, I don't really think I want to go here, but I watched their game, and Shane was so good in the recruiting process. He really showed me that he was going to value me as a player on that team, and that was massive for me because I wanted to go to a school where I was going to play if I was able to prove myself. And he emphasized that a lot to me, that if I showed my value to the team, like he would give me the minutes. Um, and I loved the teammates on that team. Like the girls that I was around that weekend, they had such a great team culture, and that was huge for me because I knew that I didn't want to go into an environment where the culture was negative. Everyone on that team was so uplifting and so welcoming to me as a recruit, which really shows you that they want more players on their team. You know, they're always welcoming. Obviously, the environment's going to be competitive. It is at any team at that level, and it should be.
But
But
it's positive, yeah.
but it was a positive environment. You know, they were doing it because they wanted to get better. And so after that visit, I canceled my other visit with the different school, which was a bit crazy. But and I ended up
Interesting.
committing later that week because I loved the campus so much. They had a good program for what I wanted to do, and I loved the team. And so yeah, I'm lucky that my decision was right, but it definitely isn't always that way. So yeah.
Nice. It's very interesting because there's a lot of players that are in the same position right now, and they can take away a lot of stuff, a lot of things that you're saying. But I also feel like it's like different for every player. It's important, like some of the things that you highlight are really important. You stayed in touch with the coaches, you need to have that network, you got support from North Toronto, and you took some risks. You took some risks and it paid off, and it could have easily not paid off. You don't know, right? And you have to just be brave. You have to trust yourself and the process, and you need to go with your guts and see where that takes you. But I'm happy that you're happy right now. It seems like you're happy where you are at Guelph. You're happy where you're playing right now in League 1. And I have a question for you. I have a few questions for you that I came up with before the podcast, and I want to ask you. So the first one is, if you could go back and give a 10-year-old Elise one piece of advice, what would that be?
I think probably to not compare myself to other players. I think sometimes you see other players, and like I was talking about before, they're committing to all these schools in like grade 11. And I was like, that is not me. Like, I'm so behind. I always felt behind. And especially because I think a lot of players were very technically talented. Um, and playing against those players, I was like, I'm never going to be at that level. I'm never going to be able to compete with them. And you have to understand that some players develop a lot earlier, and then other players develop a lot later. And I was one of those players that developed a lot later. But um, yeah, so I'd say definitely don't compare yourself to other players. Every player is different. Every player is going to have different setbacks and face adversity, but it might just happen at a different point in your timeline.
Okay, good. Thank you. Um, the other question I have is, what does success in football mean to you today?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think success means a lot of different things for me. Obviously, winning. I mean, I want to win, but I think also just seeing myself grow as a player, and you know, there's so many gaps still that I have, I think, that I want to improve on, just technically. So succeeding in those areas, I think, is important.
So
Um,
continue developing as a player.
yeah, definitely. And I think just success for me would also be continuing to enjoy the game and, you know, keeping the passion that I have for it right now. I think sometimes people get so caught up in, you know, winning and wanting to just be the best player they can, but that don't stop to look and like see how far they've come. And so I think already as a player, like I have had a lot of success and I'm proud of myself for that, but there's a lot more to go. So yeah, I think just continued development, obviously being there for my teammates. And I think creating a culture on my teams and having a successful culture that's good environment for players coming in, that is also huge for me. And I always want to be able to contribute to that.
So continue developing, enjoying the game while you're playing it, because if you're not enjoying it, then what's the point? And then contributing to a good culture where, because if you're playing soccer, you probably like to be part of a team, right? Soccer is a team sport. So being a part of that and contributing to that positively. Good. How important do you think winning is compared to development? Because everybody has their own opinion, and rightly so. And that changes from age to age, level to level. But in youth soccer, having played that yourself, gone through the pathway, having faced challenges, what do you think is more important, winning or maybe picking development over winning at times?
I mean, I think winning obviously drives players to become better and develop, but I really do think at the end of the day, development's more important at that age. Like, I don't think I really cared that much about when my team won when I was younger. I definitely cared a little bit, but for me, like when I was younger, I just wanted to play because all my friends were there and I loved being around them and I loved trying new things. I loved shooting the ball, just stuff like that. So I think that being able to enjoy soccer is really part of it. And sometimes that doesn't always mean winning. So I think development really is,
And
you
not
need to be
being scared
focusing.
to
Yeah,
try things, take risks, be creative, and enjoy.
exactly. I think a lot of coaches emphasize like a winning culture at a young age. And I know from like when I was coaching younger players, the players who played in an environment where they were just the emphasis was on becoming a better player, you know, supporting the players around you, having fun, getting better, trying new stuff. Those players always succeeded more than the players who grew up in an environment where they were just told by their coaches that they needed to win every game.
And how has that changed? Like right now in League 1 and university.
I mean, I think winning's definitely a lot more important, and we all know that. We're all a lot more mature as players. We're not little kids anymore. So,
But you're still
um,
looking to develop, right? That's one of the things you said.
yeah,
You
of
want to continue
course.
to.
I think, yeah, always developing. I think if you think you're done developing, then you're looking at it wrong. I know personally there's so many areas that I still want to improve on, but at the same time, like
Such
I
as
want to,
what?
I
Because
my
development sometimes, sorry, I keep cutting you off, but
okay.
development sometimes, players could think that it's about, your passing needs to get better, and maybe you have good passing or you have good shooting, and you're like, you know what, I'm not gonna pass. But there's other areas of development, like you're saying, like mentally, are you as strong as you could be? Socially, are you contributing to that positive culture and team that you should really be a part of and contribute to? So can you elaborate on that? In what other areas do you think you can still continue developing at this level?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, technically, of course, like you were mentioning, so many things that I want to improve there, but mentally, I think being more resilient and being able to come back from mistakes, I think that's something that I know I still struggle with sometimes. It's hard if you make a mistake in a game and then the next pass you make a mistake again. Like that is just, it plays a huge toll on you, and I don't think people talk about it enough, but being able to move on from that, I think it's an area that I've definitely improved on and but I'd like to keep improving in that area. I think also having the confidence to try new things and practice and not worry about making a mistake. is another area that I'm continuing to work on. And in games, like trusting myself, taking on players, using the skills I've learned in practice, I think that's also massive. And then, of course, as you mentioned, like contributing to the social side of my team. Like we had a lot of new players come into North Toronto this year, and every year we have new recruits coming into Guelph. So I always want to be the player that welcomes them and helps provide them, make the transition easier because it's hard to come into a new team, and I know what it's like. And so, yeah, I always want to be that person who's helping make the culture better and
Because
make
that's
people
how they
enjoy it.
made you feel, right? That's how they made you feel when you joined Guelph.
Yeah, I
Welcome.
was so welcome. That my first like practice with them, one of the players came up to me. She ran up to me and she hugged me and she was like, "I'm so excited you're joining the team." And that was like a huge moment for me. I was like, wow, like this is just insane. I feel like I had never experienced that before.
That's awesome. No, it really is. Okay. If you could trade places with any athlete, it doesn't have to be soccer, for one day, who would it be and why?
Oh, I don't know why, but the first person who comes to mind is Simone Biles. I
Okay.
would just love to be able to do what she does. Like she is just insane. I think also I would love to learn from like her mental side of things. She is like an athlete who has gone through so much adversity and like has had so much hate by the media. And I just think her story is awesome. She's such a talented athlete. And there's so much I could learn from her. And I think being able to like think how she thinks would be really cool. And then I'd also love to like try all the gymnastic stuff too. So yeah.
All right. Nice, nice. Um, Give me your best five-a-side team.
Oh my gosh.
You can choose to put yourself in there, or you can
Okay.
choose not to.
Okay. I'm gonna go with just
And you can use whatever
players.
formation you want. It could be five defenders. It could be five, whatever you want.
Okay, I'm just gonna pick my like current favorite five players. So at the top, I'm gonna go with Temwa Chewinga. I think I'm gonna go for a female team too, mostly. I watch a
Okay.
lot more female soccer than men. So Temwa
Okay.
Chewinga from KC Current at the
Okay.
top. Um, Defenders, I want to go with. I'm gonna go in a weird order here, just whatever comes to my mind. I'm gonna go with.
Sure.
I want Kadisha Buchanan at the back,
Okay.
Vanessa Gilles at the back as well. I want. I think Olivia Smith too. So Olivia Smith, Temwa Chewinga, Vanessa Gilles, Kadisha Buchanan, and then my fifth player.
Remember, you need a keeper.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna keep her. Okay.
I mean,
Um,
you can play with no keeper if you want, but
yeah, maybe I'll just have a sweeper keeper.
yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll go with Kaylin Sheridan at then. Or actually, mm,
I don't know who that is. So,
she plays for the like national team for Canada.
okay. I need to educate myself a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't think of any keepers right now, so I'll go with
Okay.
Kaylin Sheridan.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, we're nearing the end of our podcast. Um, this specific section is gonna be quick fire. I'm gonna give you two options. You're gonna choose this or that.
Okay.
Yeah? Just we're gonna go through them quickly. You ready? Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Netflix or YouTube?
Oh, I think Netflix.
Messi or Ronaldo?
Messy.
Ooh. Ear- Early bird or night owl?
Um, Early bird.
Beach vacation or city adventure?
Beach.
Pizza or tacos?
Pizza.
Texting or calling?
Calling.
Good. I'm glad you said that. TikTok, TikTok or Instagram?
Instagram.
Sneakers or slides?
Oh, that one depends. Okay, I'll go
Come
with
on, let's
slides.
go. Slides. Cardio or weights?
Cardio.
Playmaker or goal scorer?
Goal scorer.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so choose this. Scoring a screamer or assisting a game winner?
Assisting a game winner.
Oh. VAR or no VAR?
VAR.
Okay, last one. 1 extra hour of sleep or 1 extra hour of training?
Extra hour of training.
All right, interesting. Okay, well, thanks for doing that. Is there anything that you think we should mention or we should talk about that maybe we didn't mention that's important? I think before we wrap it up, it's important to say that the idea is to have you be part of this podcast for the time being, and hopefully for many many episodes to come. And our goal is to bring in athletes, leaders, experts in Canadian soccer, and to try to have meaningful conversation with them to learn. First of all, there's a lot of things that I need to learn, and today I learned a lot. So that's important, but also hopefully get some sort of value and listens to our audience, to our listeners, whether those are players, parents, coaches, clubs, whoever it might be. And it needs to be honest and raw and very um, comfortable. So is there anything that you would like to bring up, you want to talk about that maybe we haven't and you think it's important to mention?
Um, Not anything that I can think of. I feel like I kind of touched upon everything I wanted to say, but
You sure? I have one that maybe you might be
okay.
passionate. How,
Okay.
how, how do you think the how do you, are female players getting enough support and attention at the moment? Is it getting better? Because obviously you've been in it. Is there anything that's very crucial and immediate that can be done to support female athletes in soccer specifically here in Canada?
I mean, it's definitely getting better. I think one of the things that I wish I had more of was female soccer players to look up to and coaches that were females when I was getting trained. I think I was lucky because I did have a few, but definitely not as many as I should have had. And I know, as I mentioned before, I watch a lot more female soccer than men's soccer. And I think when I was younger, I didn't really want to watch soccer because it was all men's. And when you're watching, you want to kind of see players that are like you and that you can relate to a lot more. And so having the NSL now is huge. I know, like, I've talked to so many players who are just inspired, not only younger players, but players my age and older who are aspiring to play at that next level. And that's a massive, massive um, gap that's been bridged. So very grateful that we have that opportunity in Canada now. People can play in their hometown. But yeah, definitely a lot more female coaches, I think really is important to mentor young female athletes.
So what can associations like Canada Soccer and Ontario Soccer do to um, help in that aspect, to develop more female coaches, to recruit more female coaches? Is there anything that comes to your mind?
Um, I think just having more programs that support the development of female coaches, you know. I know at North Toronto we did a session where I was able to get trained for my C license for free because they were trying to promote more female coaches. And they just took a bunch of players from our uh, OPDL team. So I think that was something that was great. And just continuing to have initiatives like that um, is really important. And of
Yeah.
course, just encouraging a lot more females to be involved in the sport, and especially people who used to be players because they know what it's like not having female role
Role
models.
models.
Yeah. So
Well, that's why I was very excited when we got in touch and you you accepted to join EAM, because that's something I also think is very important for us if really we're trying to help athletes and help them in their development. Um, that includes female athletes, and it's important to have female role models and voice, opinion, perspective from the female side. And I can't, or some of the coaches that we have can't offer that. So that's one of the reasons why you've joined EAM. So looking forward to see how we can maximize that. And I tell you what, I've been tuning in for the AFC Toronto games. I have, and I never almost watched TFC. So it's actually more exciting. It really is. I don't know, for some reason I enjoy watching them more than TFC for sure. So just thought maybe I should put that out there. Okay, anything else, or should we wrap it up? No?
I think I'm good if you are.
Well, all right. Thanks for again making the time to join the podcast. I appreciate everything you mentioned. I appreciate you being honest and even vulnerable to share some of the things, the difficulties that you went through. It's going to be very beneficial for everyone listening, I hope, and I'm excited for us to continue bringing other people in and to try to learn about them. And thanks everybody for tuning in. If you stayed until now, and we will catch everybody next time. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
My pleasure. Bye bye.